some reason you don't get a clear connection, you can watch the video later on this. So, all right, so I don't believe in surprises on the test, which means everything that will be on a test was discussed at some point in class. And so we will try to make sure that we go through all those things. If you take good notes over the course of the unit, you should be fine. You will receive the assignment sheets, which I believe Hannah already received them because I was asking her to look at whether she wanted to do honors or core. The assignments, the important thing on the assignment sheet to know is the dates that are listed are the dates things are due. So for what's listed for Friday, for example, you need to come into class with that done and ready to go to discuss and so forth. And the tests are divided into 3 parts. There's the short answer questions, which can be answered with a complete sentence, or in the case of this first test, I'm letting you guys wuss out and have a multiple choice on the first one. Okay. So most of the questions, well, some of the questions are multiple choice. Some of them are short answer. But you will answer in a complete sentence the ones that are short answer. And there are 14 of those this time around that are grammar stage questions. Second part of the test will be one that requires a paragraph to answer. And we call those logic stage questions. So you answer those in complete sentences, and it will take a paragraph. And then there will always be a rhetoric essay, which is usually about 1.5 pages long, and you will answer that in complete sentences as well. Okay, so that's how each test is going to divide up. So let's go ahead and review then the other questions that will be on for All Quiet on the Western Front. All right, so far, it sounded like everyone would have been -1 already because most of you didn't know that it was Kantorek was the teacher. All right, second question. About how many people died in World War I? Was it 1 million, 10 million, 20 million, or 50 million? 10. Yeah, about 10. World War I wasn't nearly as devastating as 2. Okay, about 10 million people died. Number 3. How many of Paul's classmates died? All of them. That's the correct answer. All of them. Lost every single one of them. Number 4, which one died last? Let's do you. Yes, the K-A-T one, yes. Yes, Kaczynski, I think is how you say it, Kaczynski. K-A-T-C-Z-I-N-S-K-Y, and that's a multiple choice, so you should be able to pick that. Okay. Now, what's tricky about this is you have a Krop, a Kemmerich, a Kantorek, and a Kaczynski. Just remember the one that died last is the cat. World War I, number 5. World War I was triggered by the assassination of the Archduke of what country? Micah? No. Close to Germany? No. Nope, starts with an A. Austria. Austria. The Archduke of Austria was assassinated because Austria and Germany were allies. All right, so this is World War I now, and now we're moving to the questions you have to answer in a sentence. So it's not multiple choice. Number 6, why did the United States enter World War I? And it ain't Pearl Harbor. Yes, Camden.
Because its allies had been forced to join World War I.
Because why?
Because of its allies, they had been forced to join World War I, and so the United States entered to help them.
Okay, there actually was there were some specific things that Germany was doing over and over again that finally we'd had enough of, including one of them involved a passenger ship. Is this ringing a bell? They kept sinking our ships with submarines. Yeah, the submarine attacks. And when they sank the Lusitania or whatever that big passenger ship was, that was kind of the last straw for the Americans on that, is that they sank one that had people on board, that had passengers on board. Now, it also was hauling tons of weapons over to England at the same time, so you can understand Germany's point of view. We were sending weapons over, but that was it was the submarine attack by Germany. What did the Nazis do to the sister of the author of your book, Henrik Remarque? This wasn't in the book, so I'll just tell you what they did. They cut her head off. They actually executed her and cut her head off. All right? Part of the reason that they did that is he was actually, believe it or not very popular for writing this book. And the reason is because Germany wanted their citizens to believe that the people that were fighting in their army were these highly idealistic, like loving what they're doing type people. And is that really the image that he painted of this? No, they didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be there either. I mean, they're there because they had to be. And so they didn't really like that too much. So when he ran away, they basically killed his sister. Number 8. How did the young men square accounts, that's what they called it, squaring accounts, with Corporal Himmelstrasse for the way he treated them during training?
They cut him over the head with a blanket or some sort, and then kept on smashing him.
Yep. They threw a blanket over his head and beat him up. All right. That was one of the good stories from this one. There were lots of interesting stories in here. I'm going to just take a wild guess that probably a couple of the stories were more enjoyed by some of the gentlemen than they were by the girls. I can imagine the girls reading going, no, dudes wouldn't really take a porta potty out there and sit around playing cards while they're going to the bathroom. Yeah, they would. They totally would, okay? Sorry, but they totally would. So yeah, there were some interesting stories in there. All right, so now we're going to talk about Stanislas Kaczynski. What were some of his great qualities? What were some of the things they really liked about Cat? What could he do?
Is he the one who could always find food? No
He could always find food or anything else they wanted.
He was also really good about like predicting what would happen on the front line.
Yes, they considered him very wise. So wise and good at predicting, and this dude was a scrounge. He could find anything they wanted.
He was also he was good at stories.
Stories, yes. He had many fine qualities, so just list a couple of them. All right, now we get to another interesting story for number 10. What concern did the friends of the dying soldier Kemmerich have regarding his boots? Really interesting here, yeah.
They just all wanted them, but he wasn't ready to let them go yet. And then also, because he had lost a leg,
he's not going to need them anymore. Okay, so you just picture yourself in this position. You go in there, you realize that your friend doesn't have both legs anymore. You also know that by far he had the best boots of anyone. You further know somebody's going to end up with those boots. Now, you don't want a stranger to get them, but at the same time, you're trying to figure out, how can I not be rude and ask about the boots? Right? So they didn't want the orderly to steal the boots, and they kind of wanted them themselves. So they're trying to figure out, how are we going to broach this subject? You don't go up and go, hey, bro, being as you only have one leg, you don't mind if I take your shoes, do you?
Well, it's also because you didn't know that he had one leg at the beginning.
He didn't know it yet,
They
yes.
didn't want to, like, tell him. Because
So
he's like, oh, my leg hurts so bad.
And they're
they're
like, yeah, that's phantom pain, dude. You're not feeling your leg because it's not there. Exactly. So they are, they're trying to prevent him from freaking out about not having a leg, but at the same time they're like, but those are really nice boots. Okay, so they're trying to figure this out. Number 11, describe the conditions in the Army dressing stations and hospitals. All right, Walker, what was it like in their hospitals? What were they like?
They were filled with lots of injured soldiers.
What were the conditions like, though?
It was not clean.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting infections a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best hospital was the last one that I went to.
Okay.
The nuns.
John.
It was like really cramped and had a lot of people in there.
Yeah, they were
Low on
overcrowded.
supplies.
That's good. You can say that. Low on supplies. That's one of the things I have down here. They were always undersupplied. They never had enough bandages. They never had enough of the different things, medicines, and so on and so forth. They were also described as just being brutal places to be. It was a place that you went to just suffer in pain and hope you didn't die at. They were not very nice places to be at. Okay? Which, by the way, is one of the things in both World War I and World War II that caused discouragement among the German troops is when they would overrun positions that the Americans had given up and ran away, they would find food and other things like that just left behind by the Americans because we were in such plenty compared to them that we're like, well, I'm not going to carry food, I'll carry ammo and things like that. And they were like, how can they have this much stuff? We're on low rations, sometimes no rations, we're having to scrounge for food. How can they have so much they can just leave it behind? And it's very discouraging to them. And that's, again, in both of the wars, one of the key things that the enemies of the United States did not understand is the United States' ability to put supplies on the field. They could not understand how much food we could put out there, how much manufactured goods we could put out there. They just didn't understand that our capacity was so much greater than that of most of the other countries at that time. All right, a couple more to go. Number 12. Why do they get angry and throw a bottle at the nuns in the Catholic hospital? Yes.
Because they're like praying really loudly
And
and
waking
won't close the door.
Yes, they're praying really loudly and waking them up. Okay, so did most Germans consider themselves to be Christians, even during the wars? Yes, most of them absolutely considered themselves to be Christians. Now, this is one of the things that people always scratch their head and say, now, there's Christians on both sides of the war. How could God be on one side or the other and da-da-da-da-da? Well, you know, remember, God is not necessarily on one side or another when it comes to that type of war. He is more interested in our spiritual warfare that's going on and so forth. Now, he utilizes unchristian leaders to accomplish his purposes sometimes, like he did with Assyria and Babylon in the Old Testament, and he uses that to accomplish his different purposes and so forth. But most of these people consider themselves to be Christians in terms of they were members of a church, but these nuns thought that these boys needed more churching, all right, that they needed to really hear the word of the Lord on a regular basis, and so they would do their prayers and their chants and everything else loudly with the door open, and it would drive them crazy. All right, so why, number 13, related to this, why does Joseph Haymaker say that he threw the bottle when Paul actually did it? Let's see, who haven't we heard from yet? Let's see, Violet, have you answered one?
I can't remember the answer to this one though.
Okay. Hannah, do you remember this one? Why does Joseph say he threw the bottle when it was actually Paul? Don't remember? Let's see if John remembers.
Well, because I don't remember the exact name for it, but he had some condition that made him do these random outbursts, which then later didn't it say that the other soldiers started to get it as well, or whatever, because he just had these random things that he couldn't control himself from doing.
Yeah, he had a head injury. Okay, so because he had a head injury, sometimes it would cause him to do random outbursts and things like that. It's kind of like Tourette syndrome that some people say where it just causes them to just scream out and blurt out all of a sudden. So he was known to have that. So basically, he's like, if I say that I'm the one that did this little outburst of anger, nobody will get mad at me because they'll just say, oh, the poor boy, just he didn't know what he was doing. He has a head injury. So basically, the others said he was given a free pass to misbehave, right? The nuns are coming to others, but they gave Joseph a free pass, and that's why he said that he did it. He's like, Paul will get in trouble, but they won't do anything. All right, last question. Why is the term lost generation applied to those who fought in World War I? He talks about that towards the very end here, that they're the lost generation. Why were they lost? There's two different tacks you could take on this. Well, in one sense, how was the generation lost in a very literal sense? Lots of them died. Okay. Now, obviously, if lots of them died, then they're not getting married and they're not fathering a new generation, right? So that's one very real sense. But the other sense of those who did survive, they were lost because
they lost their humanity.
They lost their humanity, exactly. They lost their humanity. They were disillusioned by technology. They were told that technology was going to solve the problems of men. And what did technology actually give them? Better weapons and better ways to kill. Okay? They were told technology is going to solve all the problems, and we're going to do away with hunger, we're going to do away with disease, all this type of thing. And what technology actually brought them was killing machines. Right? All right, so that's the 14 short answer. The first 5 are multiple choice, the rest are sentence answer. Again, for the benefit of our new student, when I say complete sentence, it means capital letter and period and the whole 9 yards. So please, for example, if you answer, why did Joseph Hammer X say he threw the bottle when Paul did it, you can't just say head injury. That's not going to work as a complete sentence. You have to say something like, his head injury gave him a free pass, something like that. Okay? Logic then. Here is your logic question, which will require a 1-paragraph answer. All right, quickly think through books, movies, and stories that you've seen that include bonds of friendship. All right? Thinking that? Different things that had good bonds of friendship. Now, here's the question. What types of experience create friendships such as those found in stories and in your own experience? So what types of things create friendships? You can name one thing.
Oh, hard times.
Hard times, yes. That definitely pops up a lot. If you go through something difficult together, that usually forms a pretty strong relationship. What else? Shared interests. There's the other big one. Shared interests and going through difficult times together. There's 2 of the things you could say. So you can just write about that and say oftentimes friendships start out because of shared interests or shared experiences, you could say as well, because you could start to form a friendship in basic training when you get drafted into the Army by your experiences that you go through camp in basic training, right? And the reason the drill instructor is so mean in basic training is he wants all of you to band together and think it's us against the drill instructor. And now you're banding together because you're all being berated by this man over and over again. And it builds discipline, but it also builds camaraderie. And then when you go to situations of life and death together, the bonds become stronger and stronger. Okay. The red question for this time will be, I said the essay should be between 1 page and 1.5 pages. All right, so we'll choose one of the following topics and discuss how it's explored in the book, All Quiet on the Western Front. So here are your 3 choices. Suffering and death, loneliness and dread, and the last one is kind of a weird little phrasing of this, but it's a sense of cosmic absurdity. Now, let me explain what's meant by a sense of cosmic absurdity. Cosmic absurdity would refer to the idea that sometimes the world just doesn't make sense. Now, how is that theme explored in the book, for example? So you choose one of these three. Suffering and death should be a really easy one for you to understand how that works. Remember the story of the soldier they can hear dying. And he keeps calling out, and they're like, would somebody just finish him or drag him back? Do something. He just keeps calling out, and we know he's out there somewhere, but we don't know where, and we can't really go after him anyway because we'll get shot ourselves, and they're just, it's suffering. There's a lot of suffering there, and then eventually death. Loneliness and dread, something you can easily express as well. They're lonely for their family members, obviously. Even though they're with their fellow fighting people, they're lonely for family members. Dread is, I hope you picked up on that for these men, the waiting times were almost worse than the anticipation of when's the next one coming. When is the next time we're going to hear our commander say, out of the trenches, run the lines, rush the lines. When's the next time that's going to happen? Because World War I, more than any other war in history, was trench warfare. So they dug the trenches down in the ground, and they just sat there for a while, and then one side would get up and charge the trenches and get mowed down, and sometimes they would overrun them, and other times they would run back and retreat again. And then they would sit there for a while waiting for the next one to go, and it just went back and forth like that. And I hope you picked up on this, their sense of just dread that they felt, when's the next thing coming? What's it going to be next? Who's the next person that's going to get killed? Am I going to lose a limb? All those different things. So you should be able to do that. And then the comic absurdity would just be the whole lot of, especially for those of you that have been in the program for several years now, you should be able to kind of expand on this a little bit more, because we've seen a lot of different times where it just seems like something doesn't make sense. For example, why are men that were created by God, and not only created by God, but nurtured by God, and then redeemed by God through the shedding of his own son's blood, why are they so brutal to others sometimes? It doesn't seem to make sense. And did these German young men, did they really understand what they were fighting for? No. What were they told? The fatherland, but they were told that the Allies wanted to hurt them and their families. So they're fighting for their families. Okay, that's what they were told. They weren't told that Germany wanted some extra land. They weren't necessarily told that. They were told that they were fighting for the very survival of their own families. Okay? So you should be able to see that there's some absurdity that goes along with that. And anytime that they come in close contact with the enemy, there's always this sense of, he's like me. I just killed somebody like me who probably didn't want to be here, just like I didn't want to be here. And it just seems crazy that we're doing this. But why are you doing it? Well, in the case of the Germans, because you'll be shot for being a traitor if you refuse. But, there's some absurdity that goes with it. So you might choose that option. All right? So those are your three options for how you would, answer that question. Let's see. Any other questions that you guys have in general here? Okay. So, Camden, I had to put this on my phone, but I bought this new fancy Wi-Fi card for my laptop that was supposed to make all the problems go away from last year. It's like supposed to do 1.2 gigabits or something. It's supposed to be super fast and all that. I thought, oh, this will solve all the problems. Obviously not, since I'm having to use my phone again on this. But hopefully we'll get that fixed so that you can see me in a little bit bigger screen or whatever else. You guys can see and hear me okay, though, using the phone? Okay? All right, so let's see if I can switch this so we can go. do that. All right. Nope, that's not what I want either. Yes, that is what I want. Okay. I turn mine off just for a minute here so that I will then turn it around so you can meet your other people that are here in class. So, all right, introduce yourself.
I'm Olivia.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Magdalena.
Okay. And these are juniors.
Oh, hi, I'm John.
Also a junior. Okay. And John is my son, by the way. Uh-huh.
I'm Violet, senior for a second time.
So basically, she's our first Faith Lutheran College student. Oh, you guys can't even see them because I turned the camera off. That was stupid. Ooh, nice one, Mr. Merritt. Okay, let's try that again.
Now I begin to have some fun on the computer.
Hi, I'm Olivia.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Magdalena.
Hi, I'm John.
And Rose.
I'm Violet.
All right, here's the two that haven't spoken yet.
I'm Micah.
We still can't see them.
What? Seriously?
Is it slow?
No, it was like too high up. Like right now I'm looking at Walker's forehead.
All right, Walker, hold this and get your face in the camera.
Hi. Hi.
Do not put it back. All right, that's Walker. Can you see Walker now? All right, hold it so that they can see your makeup.
Show me your blog.
Is that better?
All right,
Hi.
just pass it along so they can see who you are.
Hello, I'm John. Hi, Camden.
You made sure you were in the picture? Okay,
Yep.
all right, so there's those two. All right, and obviously, you guys all know Camden already, so obviously Hannah is the other one that's on the screen there. Okay? All right. We will see you again tomorrow then. And yes, Camden.
Do you know if we're having Latin 3 today?
Yes, you should be having Latin 3 today. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. We'll see you guys tomorrow then.
Bye.
Bye.